Okay, I just
Hi,
got my.
everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm so excited today. We're welcoming back one of our favorite guests, actor Ben Koldyke. So,
Oh,
welcome, Ben.
that's very kind of you to say that, Michael. I appreciate it very much. It's a pleasure to be back here. It really is.
We get more compliments on the humor of our first interview
Oh,
with
really?
you, which that was all Brett because he was
Yeah.
just being a doofus, but
Yeah,
he
but
was kind of funny.
he's really funny, man. We had a blast talking that day. He's a really funny guy.
I didn't, I didn't want to bring up his mispronunciation of your name,
Well,
but his little comment about when you were doing your stint on How I Met Your Mother, and you were naked, and his comment about in that moment did you become cold dick. We get more comments about that being the funniest thing, and I was
well,
like, that was just stupid. But
when in doubt, Michael, invest in a dick
well,
joke.
he thinks he's hilarious, and apparently there's a lot of people out there that agree.
Right. I think that's right. Just not you.
I'm just like, I don't know. That seems. I was raised different. That's what I always tell him. I was like,
Yeah.
I did something wrong, but
Yeah.
that's just younger generation.
Younger generation. That's right.
Yeah.
Whole different sensibility.
So we were talking off camera
Yep.
that you were lucky enough to get a little bit of work
Yeah.
in last year,
Yes.
Rutherford Falls, which we were all looking for stuff to watch, and then this one comes through on the Peacock network,
Yep.
and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to watch it, and then I'm watching it, and there you are.
And there I
How
was.
about that? And it
Right
was
out of the Michael Wall podcast.
and you had, what was your name? You had some weird name on there.
Oh, you know what? I don't.
I wrote it down. It
I'm
was
not
like does.
That's it. How'd you know that? Yes,
No,
does.
I wrote it down. I couldn't remember it, but you were hilarious on there, and that shows. I mean, the cast is really good. It's funny. It was a very enjoyable, bingeable show.
Yep, it's good, and I think the world of Ed Helms.
Yeah.
I was just, I got a call that the guys from The Good Place, Michael Schur and those guys.
Yeah.
They just made me a straight offer to come on and play his brother for a few episodes, and I was over the moon because during COVID, everything was shut down. There was no work, so I had sort of written myself off for the year, and so it was a real blessing to be able to go back to work. And those guys, I can't say enough about those guys, especially Ed. He's just a really kind, very smart,
Yeah.
very talented guy. So
He had a lot. Did he have a hand in some of the writing and stuff?
I believe he did. Yes,
Yeah.
I think he got co-writing credit on a number of episodes. Certainly, I think on the pilot.
Yeah.
I don't know about subsequent episodes, but yeah, he was definitely involved in it, and he served as an executive producer on it, and it was fun.
Yeah. And have you heard anything about a season 2?
I have not heard a word.
Because I'm assuming Duz would come back.
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah.
In his mansion.
Did you get to wear the sweater around your neck?
I'm not sure I got to do that, but I certainly got to act like a rich douchebag, which was really a pleasure. I was acting in a house the size. I'll never be in a house that big ever again.
Yeah, where was that filmed?
That was kind of close to downtown, in one of those strange big front lawn neighborhoods that are in spotty around downtown Los Angeles that I think almost you get the sense that they were there before downtown.
Well, they probably were.
They feel totally misplaced, and they're just suddenly there's skyscrapers, and you're in this mansion with a massive lawn. And
I always wonder where whose houses those are, because there's somebody's.
Oh yeah, and you know what? They get paid.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure they make pretty good money on it.
They make great money for that. Yeah.
We got a little house we'd loan.
But why don't you do that? You should get. Is it in West Virginia?
In West Virginia.
Well,
we got to work on this filming in West Virginia. We got to get people to come here.
You got to get the tax credit, man. You got to talk to your governor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how.
I don't know about that.
Well, who is the governor of West Virginia? I don't even know.
Jim Justice is the governor.
Jim Justice.
Jim Justice. So Jim Justice
Sounds like a sheriff in a Western.
So I'll give you the quick story on Jim Justice.
Okay.
He was a billionaire. He bought the Greenbrier Resort. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I have heard of that.
Kind of a famous resort. It's got a bunker. A lot of presidents have come and stayed there. And he bought that when they were going into bankruptcy. He kind of saved it and did a lot of good things with it. He brought PGA Tour, came here for about a decade, did some good things for it. Kind of used that goodwill to become governor as a Democrat. And then once he was governor as a Democrat, he became friends with Donald Trump, switched to Republican, which shouldn't be allowed.
During his tenure as governor, he did that?
Yes, halfway through.
Wow.
Halfway through. But he kind of rode that wave. So West Virginia became a very strong red state. So he switched in order to help his chances get reelected, which he got. But during this second term, it has kind of come out that his business dealings, not unlike our former president, he struggled a little bit. So he is no longer a billionaire.
A billionaire. No.
He'll have to settle for,
settle for $850 million.
That's right. So that's Jim Justice.
Jim Justice.
And I forgot to tell you the best part. He also is the coach of a high school girls basketball team, which he never stopped doing. He's done the whole time he's been governor.
That's actually cool.
That is kind of cool.
I think that's actually really cool.
He was both the coach for the girls and the boys team. He did give up he didn't have time to do the both, but he kept the girls team.
Kudos to him for that.
Yeah, I have to say that one's pretty good. It
is pretty good. I mean, how rare is it for our political leaders today to be doing stuff like that in a community, and it just doesn't happen.
Well, and not to get beat up over it even.
Right, exactly. Right.
Taking too much time away from, but that's West Virginia. That played pretty well.
I bet it did.
Yeah, played pretty well.
Jim Justice.
I know there's a story there.
He sounds like a sheriff.
Yeah.
If you talk to Sheriff Justice about what's going on here, well, no, I haven't met him yet.
So I told you Brett got engaged over the last year, which was big news. I know, but he's young. But he's also been writing. So he's been working on this Western. He's taking his time with it, but he's got about 100-page written. Oh, it's so good. Yes.
Is it good?
And it's so good. I'm so proud of him. It's
man.
Yeah.
Well, the first question I have whenever I hear something like that is there a part in it for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's looking at you as the star.
That's all I care about. It's just that. It's Hollywood.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah. I'm
really proud of him.
You know what? I've been wanting to do a Western for a long time.
Well, there you go. It's really good. It's unique. It's got really interesting characters. I have no clue where the story's going.
Well,
but it's interesting.
Yeah. And where's it located? Where's the setting?
You've got me.
Oh, you don't know where it is?
In the West.
Somewhere in the West.
No, I think his setting is somewhere in the Texas area.
Yeah, okay.
Where he's
that makes
at.
Sense.
But he's picked a period of time. He's done his research, so he's trying not to, put things in that don't make any sense for. I don't know. He's been doing pretty good with it.
That's cool. Well, tell him congratulations because that's not an easy thing to do.
No, and it's especially at that age. It's hard to make yourself go slow.
Right.
He'll only do it. He'll send me a page or two at a time, and he's been working on it for months.
Good for him.
Yeah, that's good. That's pretty good.
Really good.
Pretty good. So the last time you were on,
yep.
we were talking. We had a discussion on concussions.
Yep.
And you were working on a little thing about a quarterback.
Yep.
I wondered if you'd made any more progress on that.
I've made a great deal of progress on it. It's nowhere near complete, but I'm making inroads. I did a fancy thing called Writers Boot Camp, which is it's sort of, it is exactly what it sounds like. You really go in and it's an intensive for about, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And you just work on your script. You work on first your log line, then your structure, then your outline. It's just the classic sort of thing.
Is it in person or is it over
Well,
Zoom?
it was during COVID, so no. Usually it is in person, but in this case it was not. So we all met on Zoom and did it that way. But that helped me a great deal. I got a long way to go still. It doesn't feel quite right, but that's part of the process. But I'm passionate about it because I'm passionate about the subject matter. I'm on the board of the Legacy Foundation, which is the sort of really the only outfit that's dedicated to concussions and CTE.
Right.
And they've now widened. It used to be just football players, and now they've widened their net to include Army vets.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
And there's a lot of that in that world. Which of course there is, but I never put that together. But there's a lot of soldiers who come home, not only with all the PTSD stuff, but they come back with literally CTE. They've got tau proteins in their brain because they got concussed, either once majorly or over the course of time, a bunch of little times. And it's real and it's ugly.
It's so scary. So scary. I'm assuming it's a drama that you're writing.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could try to put some humor in there, but
well, there will be humor in it. There has to be humor in it. Because I'm that's where I come from. So it's going to be funny at times, but it's a heartwarming story about a father and a daughter. And the father, and that ex-quarterback who wasn't really much of a quarterback. He was a backup most of his career, kind of guy you never heard of. But he had a career and he played enough to get concussions. And so it's about how that affects the father-daughter relationship and his ex-wife and that whole process. And it's a delicate subject matter, which is probably why it's taken me so much time to write it, but I'm enjoying it for sure. And I'm looking forward to completing it. So.
Well, you got somebody ready to jump in a spot if you need somebody, Brett.
100%.
And just being serious, we talked a little bit about that. He was growing up, he was very unathletic and he worked his butt off, and he was a big kid, just a big kid. He worked his butt off. He put on a bunch of muscle, started to get to the point where he was pretty good. When he was a freshman on a good high school team, but was in position to start as a freshman, got this horrible concussion, and ended up missing his entire freshman year. And when you sit just alone in the dark, you go through depression. You put on all that muscle turns to fat, and right. He was just this big kid. And then after months and months, he started coming out and working out by himself because he had trouble with lights and being in crowds. And he lost 130 pounds, just totally remade his body and kind of worked himself, back to school. Graduated on time. Now he's in college. He's writing.
Hey man,
pretty good.
Well, that's more than pretty good, because it is for me personally, when I had my major concussion, I had a bunch of little ones throughout my football playing days, but when I had my one in college that put me out, it was devastating. I mean, there's nothing really lonelier than having to deal with that whole.
And back then, especially when you went through it, nobody really knew what that was.
I think did we talk about this last time? I don't want to be redundant.
No, we did a little bit. Yeah, we did a little bit.
But when I played, this was in I'm going to age myself here, 1991. I had a concussion. They smelling salted me up to consciousness. I came out to the sideline. They called timeout. They asked me a bunch of questions about the signals.
Yeah.
And I knew the signals because I'd known the signals for 4 years.
Right.
I didn't know what day it was. I didn't know where I was.
Yeah, that's scary.
I didn't know why we were playing football, but I got sent back into the game.
Yeah.
Because in 1991, we didn't know anything.
That's what we would do.
And the hard fact of the matter is, if I got hit again and anywhere near whatever that same spot was on my brain, that's not good.
No, that's not good. What scares me is that growing up, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and if all of us were hurt at one time or another, all of us got our bell rung or saw stars. You never stopped. They always, what was the rub some dirt on it, get back in there.
That's right.
And I mean, that just it's no wonder there's so many people, especially our age, that are struggling now.
Yeah, it's many, and a lot of them, Michael, are struggling in isolation.
Yeah.
It's not something people like to talk about. It's the kind of disease where you don't really know what's happening.
Right.
You just feel like you're depressed, or you feel like you're losing track of your things and you can't quite focus. But none of it tells you that you're sick. It just tells you that you're not, that you're not performing well, or you're not living right. So it's a very complicated.
Yeah, they really lose yourself.
Literally.
Your personality.
I mean,
person.
Right? Literally. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, I just for a little bit of humor, I wrote down script on QB in 2007. Except my writing is so bad, I had the N and the QB together. So I was trying to figure out later, what is script on Quibbin? I was like, I was like, is he doing a sci-fi show? What is that?
What is he writing? Quibbin. Yeah, well, you're like a doctor, right? You got poor hands.
So I went looking for your Star Trek spoof pilot.
Oh.
Which was To Boldly Go or something like that.
Oh, you mean, yes, Boldly Going Nowhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was all kinds of coverage on it back then, and write-ups and stuff.
It was a big
deal. What happened? Why didn't that get made?
Well, it got made. It just didn't make it to air. It was a really interesting, of course, as an actor, you blame yourself, right? I was the lead actor, and it was a coveted part at the time. Everybody in town, everybody wanted it. So for me to get it was, I was out of left field. So for me to get it was a big deal. I didn't even have an agent at that time.
Wow.
I had about 2 credits to my name. And, Rob McElhenney, I think we talked about this. Rob McElhenney created the show, and now he's created that it's on Apple TV. I forget the name.
Mythic Quest. It's awesome.
Mythic Quest, yeah.
I was going to ask you, your buddy Rob going to get you a guest spot on that?
Well, you know what? We haven't lost touch, because we still check in every once in a while, but it's pretty rare. And that's, it's hard with casting.
Sure.
He's got a lot of people. He's got a lot of people in his Rolodex, and it's also a pretty young show. It kind of skews toward the gaming industry.
It does. Have you watched it at all?
I've seen the first season. I think I saw, 3 or 4 episodes.
There's a couple of episodes that are a little more serious than the rest of the show, and they are just amazing writing. I mean, it's really well done.
Yeah, it is. Rob's a very talented guy, really talented, and a great guy. He gave me my career. He gave me my first break. But anyway, so we shot it, and it was just a ball to shoot, and we got some really, really funny stuff, and we were all pretty confident that this was going to be on Fox, on their schedule in the fall. And there was even a blurb in the Hollywood Reporter, which I think someone at William Morris Endeavor had leaked or something. Someone, because we were all so certain it was going to go, that there was a little blurb in the trade magazine that said the show's a go.
That's what I read. It said it was like the pilot and 5 more episodes had been.
And then we found out the next day that it wasn't going anywhere. So we were truly boldly going nowhere, as it turned out.
Somebody's looking back on that and regretting that decision.
I have no doubt. I have no doubt about that, because the humor in it and just the setup of it, having there be a bunch of derelicts, going to mining rocks in space, a bunch of people that didn't know what the hell they were doing. I mean, it was really, really smart and fun.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what it was. Dana Walden was running 20th.
Come on, Dana.
Dana should have done it. I know.
Well, I was hoping that it was out there. The pilot was out there somewhere, but if it was, I couldn't find it.
You can't find it. Yeah, it's probably not. They tend to put those things away pretty completely.
I was thinking, well, maybe, with all these streaming services and they're all looking for programming, maybe they throw it on.
there used to be, I forget what they called it, but there was either a website or some deal where they collected old pilots that hadn't gone.
Yeah.
And they showed them. And I don't think it's around anymore.
No, that sounds really familiar though. I think I've
Yeah.
been on that and watched a few.
Yeah. And they were, and I forget who was behind it. I think it was a comedian or it was a group of folks. And it's a brilliant idea.
Bring that back. What you got going on tomorrow? Maybe we can start that
maybe. Well, I wonder too if it wasn't like a licensing thing, or I wonder if there was some, they probably got into some hot water.
Oh, I'm sure. Somebody always runs the fund.
Somebody will come in and say, "Hey, you owe us money. You're going to use it." And they're like, "Well, we're not going to pay you a dime, so it's over." But it's a good idea. It's a very inspired idea, because I'll tell you, I've done a number of more than I like to admit. I've done a bunch of pilots that never saw the light of day, and a few of them, a number of them, 3 in particular, were really, really good.
Yeah, that's going to be frustrating.
It's super frustrating, especially after you do the work and you realize that you had chemistry with the cast, and you enjoyed the process, you liked the people, and you thought this could be a great place to hang my hat for a while, and then it just disappears. It's one of the hardest parts about being an actor, I think.
It'd have to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so last time you've done so many things, and we missed. We talked about some of them, but we missed a whole bunch of them with that. We did. So I've been rewatching Sunny in Philadelphia. I didn't remember that you had been on an episode.
Oh, I was barely. Yeah, I was a small.
But you were in it.
I was in it.
But the one I wanted to ask you about, which I can't believe that I didn't ask them, was you were in a show where you were dressing as a woman.
Oh, Michael. Did you have to bring it up?
Yes, because I saw the pictures. Actually, I'm almost positive I saw the show.
Well, let me just say this. I apologize if you saw the pictures. Yes, that was a show written by a guy named Andrew Reich, who was a writer on Friends for the entire run of that show. And he and his partner at the time, they've split now as a writing team, but Ted Cohen was his writing partner, and they created a cross-dressing comedy that was, look, we had a blast doing it. We also knew while we were doing it that it was going to be a really tough sell because
was it kind of like Bosom Buddies?
Well, it was almost exactly like Bosom Buddies, except it was a workplace show.
Yeah, I think it was called Work It.
It was called Work It, and it's sort of one of those things you say it was what it was. We did the best we could, and look, some of this stuff was funny. A lot of it was not funny. I have to admit that, but it was also at a time when the sensibility was starting to shift already.
Yeah,
and folks just weren't tolerant at all. Of 2 men dressing up like women. It just, the times had changed right before we made that show.
How was that pitched to you?
I was sitting in a waiting room for an audition, and it was pilot season circa 2014, I guess.
Yeah,
I can't remember. And I got a phone call from, at the time, the guy that ran TV at William Morris, Jonathan Blumen, and he said, "Hey man, there's this really funny cross-dressing comedy at ABC. Do you want to do it? If you do, you got to leave that audition right now, and you got to go over there because they want to meet you." And I just said, you know what? And he sent me the script. I read on my phone a few scenes. I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
So I left the room and went over to, I can't remember where we shot that thing. Warner Brothers, or I'm not sure. And I went in there and met with Andrew, and we ran some lines, and I did my best. I did my best female voice. And so, the rest is history, but they were very frank about it. Actually, they pitched to me the idea. They said, "Look, this is a show that's going to get a lot of heat, not good heat. This is going to show that's bad attention, just so you know. The critics are going to hate it. It's one of those things, but it might catch, who knows?" And it could have. Who knows? When they aired the pilot, if it caught a lot of viewers, then maybe it would have stayed on and made a lot of people very unhappy. But it wasn't to be, I'm afraid.
Well, you had some pretty good outfits.
I had great outfits, and I had great hair. I had great hair.
You did have great hair.
I had great hair. I had great shoes. It was really, I learned a lot about.
Well, so tell me about that, because I have watched, my wife and I talk about this all the time. There's so many women out there that can't walk in high heels. I mean, like, they look ridiculous. I was like, put on flats if you can't walk in them. Yeah, that's not the look you're going for. But what was that like for you?
Easy. It was easy. That's hard for me to admit. But when I put them on, I was like, oh,
that's a skill.
I can do it. I mean, I felt comfortable in them. I mean, look, it sucks to be on them for a night of shooting. Yeah. That's not fun.
No.
But the actual walking part, I sort of lost some respect for those women that can't walk in heels, because it's really not that hard.
I mean, some of them look like the deer in the head, or the newborn deer.
The deer in the headlights. No, the newborn deer.
Newborn deer.
Even worse. Yeah, no, I didn't have a problem with that. I had a problem with the boobs. They were always bothersome to me, because they gave me some pretty good boobs.
Yeah.
And,
they probably throw your balance off.
Made me very uncomfortable, and I just didn't like them.
Yeah.
I asked if I could get a reduction, but they said no.
They said no. So the other one that I don't think we mentioned, but I love this show, is you had an appearance on the Newsroom.
Yes.
That was an excellent show.
Yep, really good and really fun. And I had a great little part. There was some talk of the part being a recurring role. That's why I did the part.
Yeah.
But it ended up just being in one episode, which was unfortunate.
Yeah, you played, weren't you?
I was like a
Cyrus or somebody was the name.
Yeah, I was like a Fox News guest who was a war hawk, and someone who was invested in all that.
Well, that show ended too soon.
I think so too.
If it had lasted longer, I think you'd have been back on it, because it was excellent. It was so well written. Well,
it's Aaron Sorkin, and I remember before I went in for the audition, my agent said, "Look," because I tend to I don't have an improv background, but I've done a lot of improv and I enjoy it. And a lot of times in comedy, it's sort of, that's part of the process. You'll get a chance to come up with your own words and have fun with it, but not in Aaron Sorkin's world. That's not the case. And my agent said, "Look, when you go in there, don't change a letter." He said, "If you see a comma, you fucking pause." I mean, he was very clear about the fact that Aaron Sorkin does not mess around, and he doesn't.
Yeah. Was he on set?
He was on set. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which terrified me at the time. Here I was, a comedy guy. I had done Big Love. I had done some other stuff, but I hadn't worked for Aaron Sorkin, and I was horrified. But Olivia Munn and Jeff Daniels and those guys, they were real pros, and they welcomed me, and it worked out beautifully. But it was, at first I was very, very, very nervous, because when I auditioned for him, I was petrified. I went into a room and it was just Aaron Sorkin and the director. And I thought, oh man,
scary.
Okay, I got to do this now. And remember, if you see a comma, fucking pause. But I did it. I actually stuck to the script, word by word, letter by letter, and I got the part. So it was fun.
Well, that was Olivia Munn. That, if I remember right, that was one of the first kind of dramatic roles that she did.
Absolutely, no doubt. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. So the other one I want to bring this one up because you had the best name, and I remember this show, but the Back in the Game.
Back in the Game.
Yeah.
I was acting against my ex-wife.
Yes, that's right. Which I didn't remember that part till I looked.
Yeah.
And see, I didn't bring that up.
I did. Yep.
Who we're big fans of. She's excellent. We love her in Psych.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's where you two met. Was this show?
That is exactly where we met, and that was another show that was really fun.
What had James Caan was on that show.
James Caan.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he is a piece of work, James Caan. I mean, he's a class. Look, he's James Caan, right? I mean, he's Sonny Corleone. That's all you need to know.
That's right. That's exactly right.
But he was accused by a number of people of being, as they say, difficult.
Right.
I saw a couple instances of that where, James Caan's accomplished actor, and here he is doing a sitcom. So it was hard for him not to feel like he was slumming a bit. And I think he took it out on some of the directors, and he made their lives a living hell. But to me, he was,
as he should.
Hey, you know what? He's well within his rights.
So your name on that show was Dick Slingball.
Dick Slingball. That's a real name.
That's like the best name ever.
My friend of mine wrote the script. His name is Mark Cullen, and he's a very talented writer. And he had a friend named Dick Slingbaugh, who was really a little league, dad, over the top, obsessed with his kids, that kind of thing. So it's basically the same characters based in real life. I never got a chance to meet the guy, but the name.
I mean, that's the guy you would want as a cameo on the show, because that screams Little League Dad.
100%. Dick Slingbaugh. God, I forgot that. Michael, you're bringing back my past.
Well, I know. I had Brett with me last time, and all he wanted to talk about was How I Met Your Mother, and
right.
He because that's the one, that's his favorite show. So he had us off on different tangents. Like you were on Masters of Sex, and I loved you on there.
Yeah,
you had a pretty, if I remember right, it was like season 3, but you were on almost every episode that season.
I was on the whole season. Yeah, I think maybe one episode I wasn't on. That was a very, very challenging and really exciting and incredibly fun process.
Yeah.
The only drama I had done was Big Love. Back in the day when I played the.
Well, I know we talked about that. I loved you on that one too.
Yeah. So, but this was nice to get back to doing some drama. But I had a crying scene. Of course, I had a crying scene with Michael Sheen.
Of course.
Who is a, pretty good actor.
he's not bad.
I thought to myself, this could go south if I'm not really, really committed to this. It could be bad, but it worked out beautifully. And he's such a great scene partner and a great guy, and it went beautifully. So it was a really, really cool experience, and I loved that show. I thought it was really, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it was a good show. So I don't think I got a chance to tell you, I had to do a crying scene. Right? So
was it on the podcast?
It was. So it's for radio. So we're gonna release it on the podcast. But I wrote this little story. It was the concept is it's stories about real people and how they dealt with the pandemic, right? So I had this little story that happened to me at the hospital. So it's my story. It's almost word for word what I said at the time. It's my story. And so our friend that was writing it asked me to play that part. And it's just voice. It's just voice. They're not going to see me. Well, I was a nervous wreck. I'm just playing myself, and I still probably overthink.
But I'll say this though, if you have to cry, I think it's just as hard to cry in a radio setting or an audio setting as it is in person, because you have to generate the emotion.
Got to generate the emotion. When
you say it was only radio, I say that's not that. I think that's.
Well, you're right. Very difficult, but it gets worse. It gets worse. So. Right before we're supposed to record this, she sends me a message and she said, I got an actor that's going to play. I'm supposed to be playing opposite of an older gentleman that's a patient in the hospital. She said, I got an actor to play the older gentleman, and he wants to read with you. So that made me a little nervous. I was like, okay. I was like, who is it? And she's like, you probably never heard of him. I was like, okay. So I get on the screen, and who pops on Zoom? Ed Asner.
Oh my God. Lou Grant?
Lou Grant.
Lou Grant popped on the screen?
Popped on the screen. And I was terrified. So, but he's such a good actor, and he was so believable as this elderly gentleman with the sad story that I was able to get emotional. I didn't really have to cry. It was just my voice had to crack, and that. But I got emotional, so it went pretty well. So we get done. A couple of days go by. I get a call, and they're like, "Yeah, we were listening to, your recording. Ed sounds great." That's what they said. Ed sounds great. I was like, "Uh-oh." They said, "But something was wrong with your microphone. Yours is terrible. So we need to redo yours." I was like,
was this while you were shooting, or was this later?
This was later.
While you were recording. So after, okay.
Yeah, this was later. So this was after they were trying to mix it, Okay. So there was something wrong with the mic, and it screwed it up. But Ed's was fine. Well, Ed didn't want to do it again. So then I have to recreate it and that emotion and everything without Ed. Right? So then Emily, my wife Emily.
Now that's hard.
That's hard. So she's trying to help me. So, because I was struggling, we couldn't get it right. That we did, like, I don't know, it felt like 100 takes. I could not get the same emotion. So she finally, tells me something, whispers something to me, and it just killed me. That worked. So then I got emotional. So that worked. So they got the scene. It worked fine. But then I couldn't get out of this sad state that I was in. I was sad for like 2 days after that.
Yeah.
So that's hard. You can keep that acting stuff.
Yep. But I'll say this: you were charged with, I think, one of the most difficult things to do. I mean, conjuring emotion is hard enough when you're in a scene with other actors and other people, and you get to use the energy that you're creating, so you have something to cry about.
Right.
But to do it, without any external action at all, that's a really tough thing.
Tough.
Yeah, it's very hard.
That's tough. So that was my foray into acting, and that was good enough for me. But I guess I can always say I acted opposite Ed Asner.
You always say you and Ed Asner were scene partners.
I was like, it couldn't get any better than that, so I just retired after that.
Yeah. Oh man, that's funny, but that's really hard to do. Good on you. Did you get it finally? Did you get some version of the emotion?
We are within weeks of having it finished. They're finishing up like the last episode or two, and then it'll be released.
Okay, that's cool.
It's taken much longer than what any of us wanted, but I guess that's what happens. It takes as long as it takes.
And when you say it's going to be released, what does that mean? It'll go on.
Well, it's going to go. So we're going to release it on the podcast, but it'll be released as like a podcast episode, but it's more like old time radio is more like what it's going to be like.
Got it.
So they're like 10, 15-minute episodes, and we'll release it. We haven't decided yet. We'll either release all of them so you can kind of binge through them, or we'll do it, once a week. I'm not sure yet, but
that's cool.
It's coming. It's last Saturday night.
Is your
very
son
excited about it?
Is your son in it?
Yeah, Brett's in it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's in it. And he was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like I stressed out, I practiced, I did all this stuff. He shows up, 5 seconds before he's supposed to record his part, nailed it, and left.
Hey, those are the guys you want to work with. Keep his number.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said you need a concussion kid. He's your guy.
He's your guy. Fair enough.
Your guy. So I got to talk to this one's kind of cool. So I got to talk to a gentleman that played your son on a show last week. Yeah, so I always get the Gortimer show, or Gibbons. Yeah, Gortimer Gibbons, yeah. Life on Normal Street. So Sloan Morgan Siegel was on the show last week. And,
that's very cool.
Yeah, it was so cool because I had no idea that you had played his dad until I started looking through his stuff, and I was like, wait, there's Ben.
Yeah.
He said you were the best. He had the best time acting opposite you. He said that
it was really fun. It was really fun, and he's a really talented kid. I mean, here's a kid. I came into acting late, right? I became an actor when I was 31 years old. So, for me to see a young kid carrying a show.
Well, yeah, and he was probably what, 15 at the time, something like that.
I would think that's probably right. What is he now? Is he 20?
20. He's about Brett's age, 20, 21.
Oh, that sounds about right. And he was number one on the call sheet, and he did it with an incredible amount of class. He was kind. He was self-effacing. He was fun. He was also a really good actor, and he was committed. And it was just amazing for me to see a kid 15 years old not act like a jackass. I mean, when given that kind of, the guy's sitting there getting paid a bunch of money. He's top on the call sheet. He's got his own show. That can
It'd be hard not to, as a kid, not to get cocky at least.
100%. And he was quite the opposite. How's he doing? I haven't talked to him in years.
He's doing terrific. So he actually grew up in West Virginia.
Oh, he did.
Yeah. So he wasn't born here, but he grew up here. So that was the reason I was kind of reaching out to him. I was like, hey, that's a West Virginia guy. So yeah. But he's doing really good. He's got a lot of stuff working. He's trying to make that transition from kid actor to adult. So he's growing the beard and stuff now.
Of course, yes. I'm 20.
Yeah.
Trust me, I'm 20.
Yeah, he was complaining about that because he's 20.
Well, is there anything harder? The problem is when the show's a hit, or when it's on for, I think that show did how many seasons? 3?
Yeah.
That means everybody gets to know you.
Well, and he went from that show to another show called Dwight and Shining Armor, which was another kind of family kid type of show. And he did that one for a couple of seasons. And so he's had a little bit of a run playing that type of role. And now he's wanting to do more serious fare, a little older. And he's struggling with that.
It's almost like starting over. I mean, I had to do it too. I mean, I'm, not young anymore, and your casting starts to change, and it's really tough. You got to kind of recreate yourself in a lot of ways. And I imagine for a young person,
he was cast in a video game called Gotham Knights. He's playing one of the Robins, Tim Drake.
Love it.
Yeah, so he's voicing Robin. I was like, well, you can't beat that. There you go.
That's the best work in the world, by the way.
Yeah.
I have yet to book one of those parts. I've auditioned more than you could ever imagine, but I've never booked a vocal part, and I'm dying to do it.
Yeah, you'd be so good at that. So I've been watching Loki, right? Loki's been on. You could totally have done the Owen Wilson role.
Yep.
That's what I thought of. Every time I see him on there, and I like Owen Wilson, I'm like, that should have been Ben.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. But, Owen Wilson tends to draw a little more viewership, and
well, yeah, but he's not really playing Owen Wilson in this one. He's getting more serious.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the trailers and I've seen him work.
It's good.
Yeah, it is good, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the type you need a Marvel movie.
I need. Knock on wood, Michael.
I'm just throwing it out there because stuff starts happening if I do that.
Well, good. Throw it out there more. I'd like nothing more than to do that. So it's good, Loki, because I'm a huge Mandalorian guy.
Yeah. Mandalorian is.
I thought that was one of the best efforts in years. And I'm not even a sci-fi guy. I'm not even really a Star Wars guy. I'm none of those things. But that show was
kind of a space western.
It's a space. It is. I think definitively a space western.
Yeah. Yeah, it was really good.
That Baby Yoda was a stroke of genius, man.
You're not a Star Wars guy?
Well, I made a short film.
Yeah, right. The Jedi film, and you are totally a Star Wars guy.
Yeah, except I'm not. I didn't know anything. I was reading Wired magazine, and there was an article about the guy that runs the Jedi Gym out in New York.
Yeah.
And I said, that sounds funny. I don't know what the angle is, but it sounds funny. And so I called the guy. I called him. I found him somehow. I can't remember how I found him, on the internet or something. I called him in New York. I said, hey, man, I'm curious about your Jedi Gym. want to hear about it. I'm a writer and an actor. I'd love to. And he goes, oh, yeah, you're a writer and an actor? Okay, cool. So listen to me, man. I understand you think it's funny. I understand you want to make fun of it, but what we're doing here is real work. And what we're doing here is changing people's lives. So, I'm not interested in and I said, there's the show.
That's the show.
Yeah. I mean,
and I'll still tell people, I'm still telling people, Jedi Gym is one of the funniest things I've ever watched. It's hilarious.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that more than you know.
I go back and watch that all the time. It
holds up. I will say this. I don't like, tooting my own horn, but that holds up. It's still funny. I looked at it a year or two ago and I thought, wow, it's still funny. It's
still good. It's you can still find it on YouTube.
Yeah,
hilarious.
There, yeah.
I almost called you a few months ago because we own some buildings here in St. Albans, and and I don't remember if I told you. I can't remember last year. I don't think we were in our studio yet, so we're in a studio now. So
oh, you are? Okay, good.
Things went well enough. We were able to purchase a building, and it's got some apartments in it. We rent out, and we put our studio in there.
Beautiful.
But we've got another building that's just empty. So I got a call. We haven't really done anything with it yet, but I got a call. This guy said, "Yeah, I want to put a gym in your building." I was like, "Yeah, let's talk about it." So he shows up and he's like, I'm a certified trainer in Jedi fighting."
Yeah.
I was like, I know how this story ends.
Yeah. I've seen that film. And let me tell you something. You better watch your 6.
Yeah, you better watch out. That does not end well.
That's really funny.
I was game, though. I was like, all right.
Did he say that with a straight face?
Yeah. Oh, he was dead serious on it. He's like, yeah, we're operating out of this dojo right now, and we need a bigger space.
The Jedi dojo. Oh. You see, it exists. It still exists.
So it's out there. Well, and not only that, he was telling me that it's up to become a part of the Olympics, this Jedi fighting. I don't know if that's true, but that's what he was saying.
Pretty good sense that it's not true.
Yeah.
But these days you never know what the Olympics.
You never know.
Yeah, there's crazy sports.
It would get a huge audience, though.
It would get a massive audience. Everybody would watch it.
Everybody.
That's probably why they're entertaining the idea, right? They want people to tune in.
Well, I don't know what happened to him. I was like, okay, let's do it.
And it didn't work out. The gym didn't work out.
He never showed back up. So no Jedi Gym. I was very disappointed.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, but I wanted to call you just to tell you, hey man, we're opening a Jedi Gym.
Oh man. Oh. You'd have to put a big poster of my character in the middle of that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. No, you'd have to come for like the grand opening or something.
Oh, that's right. I'd have to come.
You'd have to
lead a class. Oh man, that's funny.
Have you ever thought about going back and doing like a sequel to that?
Actually, we got really close on, my friend Adam Stein, who's a writer, he and I got together and we, somebody, I think it was his agent, said, you should shop that around as a pilot idea.
Yeah.
And we did. And we went and we pitched in costume.
Always a good
one of my prouder moments.
Yeah, always a good joy.
I walked into a pitch meeting with a lightsaber and wearing a big, Obi-Wan robe and the whole eyeliner, the whole thing. And it was a really funny pitch and people loved it, but they just couldn't get past the licensing stuff. And so if we didn't go to Disney, and we did go to Disney and they said that, they loved the idea, but they weren't going to do it. So that was really our only hope.
Right.
Because no one else would be obviously willing to deal with that nightmare of, licensing and copyright and all that stuff. So
yeah, you need to go back to them.
Yeah, I do. I tell you what I do need to do, Michael, is I need to get back to shooting because I've just haven't done it. I got busy.
Well, you've got a real talent for it. I went back, last time I hadn't watched your Ben Laden stuff, but I went back and watched it. That was hilarious. A little controversial. It was hilarious.
Well, you know what though? At the time, it was really controversial because I shot it like 6 months after the thing happened, or maybe a year. I mean, it was really, some people just.
It's funny though.
No, it's, I find it really funny. And
Yeah,
I thought
it is. It's funny.
other actors did a great job in that one too. But it was super touchy when I first was sending it around. I got a lot of negative comments back from people saying, too soon, man, too soon. I said, well, shit.
I don't know if you're going to get that no matter when you release it.
Yeah, that's right. No one, if they're sensitive to it, they're not going to be into it. But I thought it was funny, so I did it.
Yeah. So I know I need to let you go, but I wanted to ask you about you did a Curb Your Enthusiasm, and for the life of me, I watched that show and I cannot remember what you did on that show.
It was a small part, and I played Larry's neighbor, and the episode hinged on Larry's dirty car. Larry David, I guess his character famously doesn't wash his car, and so it's covered in dust. And I was his neighbor, and it pissed me off that he wouldn't clean his car.
Oh, I do remember that.
So I would draw penises in the dirt and the dust, big ball sacks and penises, and
you get the best roles.
So we met at a car wash, and we talked about it, and I let him know that I was the guy, and it was just, that was. Man,
was his name Dick Slingball?
No, I wish it was though. I don't remember the guy's name. It should have been Dick Slingball.
Oh, I wrote it down. It was Dave.
Dave. Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. He was definitely a Dave.
Yeah, I remember that now. I was like, man, I watched that show's hilarious. I watched all of it. And I cannot remember what.
That audition is a great story. Well, not really a great story, but a wonderful sort of snippet. You want to talk about nervous because there's no script.
Yeah.
Right. So you go in there and you walk into a room and it's Larry David and Jeff Garland. And I forget the director of that. I forget who's directing. But these are not lightweights in the improvisation world. And I was, because I can improv, but I'm not trained as an improv. So was I nervous when I went in there. But again, same situation. Larry's such a pro, and he's such a good guy that he made it. The environment was welcoming and perfect, and we had an absolute blast. I think one of my bucket listers was watching him laugh really hard at my improv. That I took that in my heart and said, you know what? Even if I don't get this part, that was worth the price of admission right there. Yeah. I got to make Larry David laugh, so that's cool.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. We did I'll give you a quick story. We did an interview with Larry Hankin, who, if you watched Seinfeld back in the day, he was, when they were doing the pilot within the show, he was the one that got cast as the Kramer in the show, right? So when he originally, I guess, had actually tried out for Kramer, and Michael Richards got it. But they liked him enough, they called him back when they wanted a fake Kramer. So, but he was there auditioning, and he had some type of kind of dry take on Kramer. And he said, there's this guy just sitting over in the corner, and he's auditioning for this other group, but this guy's just sitting over in the corner. And he kind of did his bit, and he was standing around, and the guy gets up from the corner and comes over, and he's like, I know what you're doing, and I don't like it. You need to, well, I don't remember what he said, but he's like, you need to change it. You need to do this.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, Larry's like, oh, okay. He's like a random guy. Okay. And so Larry walks out of the room, and he turns around, and he's like, who is that asshole? And they're like, it's Larry David. He's the one that but he got the role, so
got it anyway. So that's good.
Ben, thank you again.
Hey, man. Michael, I love doing this. I will bend over backwards to do this again. I love it, and I want to do it with Brett again.
So I was going to say we got to do it again with Brett back, because
I would love it.
Together we're cracking me.
Have to book me. I'll book me another role, and I'll come back on here and tell Brett. Tell Brett if he wants me to read anything or talk about it, his Western, I'm open and totally willing to give him a hand. So if he wants to,
he would love that. Yeah.
I'd be glad to. I'd be glad to.
Yeah, he would, like, just to get a general opinion. He would.
You bet. And I can help him out.
I I have the dad goggles on. You know, like I feel like it's really good. Like I'm reading it and I'm like interested to see where the story's going to go. And I'm like, because I like westerns, I'm like, I would read this. You know, I would pick this book up and buy it.
There you go.
He'd probably appreciate hearing it from somebody else.
I would love it. So please have him send it, or just stay in touch and we'll figure out how to do it.
You know, if you come back on a third time, then we gotta treat that kind of like the Five Timers Club on Saturday Night Live. Be like, we gotta buy you a jacket or something.
I got to get some satin, like a satin jacket, right?
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
You gotta get a robe. I think a robe.
A robe is, yeah, that's exactly right. A Too Opinionated satin robe. That's what I'm asking for. That's my those are my demands in the green.
Those are your demands. I think that's
satin robes.
That's legitimate.
Yes.
Yeah, reasonable.
It is reasonable.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for green M&Ms or anything like that. I just want a silk robe. You know, it's not that hard.
One last question before you go. You had mentioned last time, you know, you had to do your naked guy with Colby, and you struggled with that because you really liked her. Have you ever run into her since then?
I haven't. I don't even know where she is. I don't know if they moved. I wish I
I was just curious how that run in would have went.
No, I know it would probably be funny.
Yes.
But I lost touch with her. I don't know. The only person I'm in touch with is Josh Radnor from that show. We have been in touch a little bit, but Kobe is, I don't know where she is. I'm sure she's still here, you know, working. She's a great actor. She had that show on ABC.
Yeah, it was pretty good. She was a detective.
Right. Yeah, kind of a hard bitten.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We watched it.
She played it really well. Yeah.
It was based on a comic book.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah. Well, so Ben, before you go, is there anything else that you've got going on that we should keep an eye on?
Right now it's writing. There's auditions are coming through, you know, kind of piecemeal. It's still a little COVID-y, a little slow going. We're getting our legs back a little bit, but not completely. So I've just turned my attention toward writing, and I'm working with Virgil Williams, my writing partner. He's Academy Award nominated, Virgil Williams.
Yeah.
He wrote Mudbound, and he and I have got a couple scripts going, a couple ideas. He's super busy writing for Denzel and all that. So I'm kind of I'm the guy.
Oh, is that all?
Can you work today? I'm like that writing partner that's unemployed. Hey, man, call me when you can.
That's pretty great though. Have you thought about
it's forcing me to think in terms of being creative again, shooting and making stuff. So I'm gonna run with that. So
have you ever directed, or have you thought about directing?
Never for money. I directed the short films. I directed Jedi.
Right.
I've never directed anything. You know, the trick is you have to be, for an actor to get a director gig, you got to be on a show that has a bunch of seasons. And I have not been lucky that way. You know, a lot of the shows I've done have either been guest stars where I've been on for a season, but that's it, or pilots that haven't gone, or pilots that have gone for, you know, one season or half season. So I haven't quite broken through to a point where I got a regular job where people get to know me and I can, you know, spend the 2.
Well, that kind of makes sense, because you see, that's what you usually see in later seasons. You see that some of the actors get to.
Yep. I mean, that's how it works. You got to be in there 3 or 4 seasons, and then you'll get a shot. But I can always make stuff on my own, and that's what I'm trying to get back to. So.
Yeah, you need to do that.
Yep, I agree.
You know, if you want to do one about, you know, a guy that's trying to open a gym in West Virginia.
Yes.
The sequel to the Jedi Gym. You know, for the Olympics. He's training for the Olympics.
Oh man, yeah. Yes, he is. In his mind, he's training for the Olympics.
He said that. Well, hey, I say I can't act, but I think I did a pretty good job. You know, not laughing when he said that he was training for the Olympics.
I don't know how you didn't.
Yeah.
Although you know what's interesting about it is, what I learned in Jedi Gym is that, you know, the Jedi mind, if you believe in it enough, you can start to sort of self-delude, and you can start to think things like maybe Jedi fighting will be in the Olympics.
Yeah.
Because you go a little crazy with the Jedi stuff. You take it a little too seriously, and pretty soon you're starting to talk, you know, wackadoodle.
I've got this thought, though, that I'm going to turn on the Summer Olympics one of these times, and there's that guy that's going to be on there, you know, competing in the inaugural Jedi
I'm thinking about
Olympics.
it would be entertaining if they used real lightsabers. If they could create, a death stick that had a full laser energy, and that would be kind of cool. But
It should at least deliver a shock.
you should get shocked way more than you do in fencing.
Yes,
It should hurt.
It should hurt.
Yeah.
That
You
would
don't,
make it.
you don't
That
need
would
to
make
lose
it.
you don't need to lose a limb, but you should feel the pain of a.
Yeah, you should feel the pain.
of a
Like
Jedi.
like somebody should. If you get beat, it should not be good.
No. I agree.
All right, Ben. Thank you so much.
You're the
Hold
man.
on 1 second.
I appreciate it, dude.
Oh yes, sir. Ben Koldyke. Oh my gosh. Like legit, one of Brett and I's not just favorite actors, but just favorite people. What a guy. He's always been just so kind to us and really he's a busy guy. He acts like he's not, but he's a busy guy. And for him to give us another hour on top of the hour he gave us last spring, so generous. Just love Ben to death. Do yourself a favor, find Jedi Gym. It's one of the funniest things that you'll ever watch, especially if you're a Star Wars fan. So good, and he's such a good actor. We didn't talk this time about his work on The Good Place, but I wanted to hit some of the shows that we missed the last time. So if you're like, why didn't they talk about Big Love? Why didn't they talk about The Good Place? Go back, check out our interview with Ben that we did last April. It's hilarious. Brett's on there. The jokes are flying. It's a really, really fun time. So do yourself a favor and watch that one right after you watch this one. Thank you so much for coming back week after week. We really don't take that for granted. So appreciative of that. If you haven't done so yet, we would really appreciate the help. If you would go to YouTube, MeisterCon Pod, give us a like and a subscription. We'd really appreciate that. You can find all 260 or so episodes that we have done on our website, meistercon.com, audio and video. There's so many good interviews. No matter who you're a fan of or what show you're a fan of, I guarantee that we've talked to somebody. So please go and check those out. Thank you guys so much, and until next time.